This video, I'm here to talk about my build. So I began Path of Exile 2 as a mercenary because I wanted to roleplay Geralt of Rivia, the hottest man to grace the fantasy genre. Tell me I'm wrong. That guy is hot. Hot. I'm straight, by the way, straight as hell. But this guy makes me gay. So in the vein of being a witcher and a mercenary, I wanted to pick up the mercenary class and roleplay a bit as some kind of Path of Exile 2 Geralt variant, if you will. Dropped it. I dropped that class immediately. I kind of lost interest in that class, and I kind of just stopped playing Path of Exile 2 for a bit. And then rolls in solo leveling. I watched solo leveling and I thought to myself, I would love to make a build like Sung Jinu from solo leveling. Going into battle, summoning demons, or summoning like little shadow fuckers, right, as minions that you can bring along with you, and then just like going out and being like, yeah, you fucking get him, dude, let's go over there and fucking fight him and shit. That's sick. I would love that. And my immediate thought was Diablo, maybe we could do it there, but I don't think that it has the same level of flexibility as Path of Exile 2. I think Path of Exile 2 has just an insane amount of flexibility and diversity to their builds, because as soon as you begin the game, you can already mix and match a bunch of the different skills from all the classes. And I think that's like where the fun of Path of Exile 2 lies, is in theory crafting these different builds and understanding that these different builds are very much viable as long as you take the time to flesh them out. So on that note, here I am wanting to build Sung Jinu in Path of Exile 2. Wow. A little bit of a rhyme there, if you will. So I was doing some research on Path of Exile 2 and trying to figure out, like, how can I build Sung Jinu? How can I make a character that has relatively high mobility, relatively high single target damage, and is able to cast minions and stuff like that? As it stood in the anime, Sung Jinu started off with more or less like his physical ability by himself, like, solo leveling, right? So in my head, I go, let's start with someone who can dish out some pretty good physical damage and has high mobility. I thought of the Huntress class. The Huntress class is relatively new. I thought it was a good representation of Sung Jinu's mobility and single target damage. Now, the Huntress can't equip daggers. Daggers aren't really in the game yet. Again, my main goal here right now is the mobility. The dagger stuff we can implement later, but as it stands right now, the Huntress with their spear is kind of where I'm going. So immediately the Huntress is a woman, not a man. So Sung Jinu is for now Cha Hunter, who is also from the solo leveling anime. So I'm like a fucking nerd, but that's okay. I also think that the abilities and the skills that the Huntress has, such as like gaining frenzy charges and other power charges, is really cool, and it's very indicative of like Sung Jinu trying to find a way to find weaknesses in his enemies and exploiting them. The next thing, of course, is minions, right? You can't talk about Sung Jinu, you can't talk about solo leveling without some sort of Arise conversation. The skill that came along with the Dawn of the Hunt update, one of the skills anyway, is called Bind Spectre. When I saw Bind Spectre in my head, I was like, it's here. We got something going on. Bind Spectre was for a time kind of like my main goal. I'm at a point in time in the game right now in Path of Exile 2 where I have some good levels on my character, and we've already gotten the Bind Spectre ability, and I'm really happy about it. And I had a relatively good time up until Count Geonor, that guy's a motherfucker. He was hard. He was a very long and difficult fight. But we got through it. So we beat Count Geonor, and now we're moving on into Act 2. And this is where I get my Bind Spectre skill. And, my reaction is like, oh, we finally got it. I went into this whole thing not really understanding what the Bind Spectre skill does. I know that the Bind Spectre skill trapped the souls of dead enemies, and then you can use them as a minion skill. And so I got it. I got the Bind Spectre skill. I'm like, let's fucking use it. Let's test it out on something for fun. And there's a few dead bodies around me. I'm like, all right, let's revive this fucking beetle, right? This beetle's gonna be a sick guy. He's gonna be a sick minion. Not really. So I bind the Spectre to the skill gem, and I'm kind of surprised because the skill sort of disappears from my skill bar. I'm like, oh. And to my surprise, unfortunately, you can't replace the minion on the Bind Spectre gem. So as soon as you bind the Spectre, as soon as you have a marriage contract with the Bumbleclap Razclat Spectre, and it goes into your gem, that's it. You have to get another skill gem and make that skill. You have to get another uncut skill gem, and then you have to make sure that uncut skill gem binds to another Spectre. And unfortunately, the Spectre that I've bound to my skill gem is a fucking beetle. You know, not the most exciting of monsters to have in your arsenal. Shout out the beetle, man. It's not doing much, I'll tell you what. I don't need to say, I mean, you know, suffice to say, I am going to pick up another uncut skill gem, and when I do, and when I turn it into another bind Spectre skill, I am going to bind the right and proper, like good spirit to the gem. I'm not gonna bind any other fucking insects. In any case, I've learned my lesson. We're gonna get an uncut skill gem, and we're gonna bind something cooler and something a bit more robust as far as damaging minions are concerned. Yeah, so with that, you know, Sung Jinu's, you know, my Huntress's Arise army has now begun with a blood-clad beetle, and that's fine. In any case, this is going to be a series of videos where I'm just going to be recapping my experience trying to build out the Sung Jinu build in Path of Exile 2. I think I'm having a lot of fun, right? As it stands right now, I think it's really fun trying to figure out, number one, how the fuck do I get from one side of the passive skill tree to the other side in the most efficient way possible so that I can get more damaging buffs for my minions, because as it stands right now, my minions don't really have any extra damaging buffs. So with that in mind, it's going to be a long journey until this, like, the build is fully completed. On the note of trying to find a new monster to bind to my skill gem, if you guys have recommendations as far as like what monster I should bind to my skill gem, let me know down in the comments below. There, I want to build out a cool ass fucking army. I don't want an army of bugs. In any case, if you want to stick around for the journey and if you want to see how things unfold, subscribe, like, again, comment more stuff if you want to. But yeah, this is going to be the start of the completion of this build. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.